Hi, this is me, Jackie. Trying to get this right so it won't. Okay, there we go. I hope that's right. Does that seem right? Okay. Now, here's some ideas I had. All these different journals I had. They're kind of like better world ideas, but they're also inventions and business ideas I got. So if anybody wants to do them, I'm just throwing them out there. Okay. Do house or business trips by well, I just thought, okay, do house or business trips, buy cheap property and fix it up for cheap but in highest quality, most universally liked styles, and resell for more abroad or in Europe, something USA. Yeah, that was just kind of an idea to myself. Like, I don't know. I don't even know if that's really a good idea. You know how people always think that way? But actually, if you do that, then all the houses are overpriced and they wind up abandoned and nobody can afford a house. So actually, I changed my mind on that way of thinking. I mean, that could be good in some cases, but I believe in making houses affordable, even if it's not as much profit. Like, God can repay your charity, but it doesn't have to be completely charitable, but it can be like a reasonable priced house, you know? Like, I believe in low price housing that's kind of a luxury style for moderate income people, you know, or even poor people too, but probably moderate income people. Type houses that are really luxury style, like almost mansion style, but mini mansions that are with all the luxury styles that a mansion could have, you know, except on a mini scale, like a more medium-sized house style scale, and using materials that are the same style but cheaper priced versions of the high-quality style. That's what I thought would be fun, to make houses that style. Affordable, though. I don't believe in making them expensive, because then unless you're in a very expensive, a very wealthy area or something, because unless the country that you're in is really going to be able to afford it, right? Because a lot of the percentage of wealthy people is so low, you might not ever sell it, so it might wind up being abandoned and you'll lose money. So, I mean, I that's just how I think about it. And that's how I've thought about it before. Let's see. Okay, invention. Zippers on the top part of electric guitar for easier takeout. That holds it on you more secure thing on it so it won't fall off and drop. Because I've had guitars drop on me because the guitar strap, if you've ever seen some of them, they're just have a little hole in them, and then you put the guitar through the hole, and then it just falls right out. I mean, it's not made very well. It should make it more where it's more secure. It won't fall off of you. I mean, I don't know if that's how all the guitar straps are, but that's how mine were before. Okay, what else? Ideas. Some alternative book publishers should pay you, the author, to market your book, not you, the author, having to pay them. And then they can get some royalties for their service or pay back loan to them profits. Can something come in little by little, loaning you to market it for you say? Because otherwise, if poor author, their book won't get out there. If costs up front $10,000 for author to. reasonable amount of, and only something fixes spelling, doesn't rewrite it. Yeah, and sometimes they charge you forcefully charging you all this money, like $10,000. I looked into it before when I wanted to publish a book, and I couldn't even afford to do it. It was like $10,000, and they gave me a sample of how the book could be, and they rewrote it completely. They made it in a style that I didn't even like, and why not just keep the style that I originally had it? I don't want it rewritten. And so it was just this needless stuff they're doing for you, like rewriting it, and you don't even want that necessarily. So in some cases it might be good, but in some cases it'd be better if they only fix the spelling, maybe very minorly, don't rewrite it at all, and optionally rewrite it for you if that's what you want, but not just forcing you to pay all this extra money just for something you don't even want. And then and then reasonable amount of copies, it doesn't have to be like putting them out a huge expense or anything, but just test copies, run in mainstream areas, a few test copies, they could help you market. And if it doesn't sell well, then they don't have to help you any further, something like that. And if it does sell, well, then they could help you further. And that way guarantees both of you will make money, make the money back. It won't be very much of a upfront cost that they have to pay or anything. It's just a small testing a few copies in some mainstream areas to see if it's popular. Let's see. And it could be like maybe, or maybe it could be like where they help you market it. Maybe they don't pay all the costs, but it's kind of like an on-demand thing where you only put out a few copies, but they help you market it, and you pay them a small amount for that service, but not like where it's so ridiculous that it makes poor people not be able to afford it, Like it wouldn't be like where it's that expensive on their part or towards you. Just putting out a few copies as a test run type of thing. That's the service they should offer, as opposed to just rejecting it because they don't think it'll sell 1 million copies and rejecting it altogether. Maybe just giving it a test run and charging a small amount that's reasonable. That would be a good idea if they would do it that way instead. Instead of charging you $10,000 to market it big time on something you don't even know if it's going to sell, it'd be better to do a test run type of thing for everybody, unless it's something they for sure want to stand behind and pay you to market it or whatever, or unless you really want to pay them a huge amount of money to market it super mainstream. Okay, let's see. New ideas for laws. Never chemicals harmful use in any products, and only time, if ever, questionable chemicals can be used is in when product is rinsed out off right away, like shampoo or natural veggie cleanser or such, and or never in foods that go into water systems or body, nor that's bathed in long while like bubble bath, nor for if hairspray or makeup like that stays on long time, and natural ingredients not only used on stuff that's rinsed or in fast like bar soap, but not in products that stay in long time like lotions or etc. Oh, I already put that one up. Okay. So that might be on another video of mine, but it will. Okay, a lot of these ideas, some of them are new, but where are the new ones? Got so many journals, it's like hard to get. I have all these journals. Okay, here's a new journal. This should have some new ideas. Okay, ideas. More puzzle board games made into video games. Because they've made some video games that were originally board games. Like Blockus, they turned into a video game, a PSP game. It's pretty cool. And I'm like, oh, they should make more like this. Because they've made a few, and they're pretty fun. Because there are some great board games out there. And if people don't know about them, and if they play video games and not board games as much, they could put them into, like the type that you could like play by yourself, or against the computer. You could put them on the portable system or whatever. Okay, idea. game machine that reissues on demand old or any games, physical copy for any system, or except wanted or whichever machine could do. Has Atari 800 and old computer games too, or bring multi-cart making machines to USA video game stores could at least buy them maybe, and or plug and play preloaded Atari with Atari 800 games on console console format of Atari 800 with multi-carts that can be legally done. Because it's hard to find an Atari 800 computer system, so I just wish they would market it as a plug and play, because I played some of them on emulation, but I don't know if it messed up my PSP, because I'd rather it be done legally, where it's put on a multi-card, or you could buy like a multi-card of it or legally, or they can make some legal plug and plays or something of the Atari 800 games, because they reissued all the non-computer games, but the computer games are the ones that are harder to find. I mean, the console games of Atari aren't as hard to find, but they keep reissuing those on PlayStation and all these different systems. But the ones that need to be reissued are Atari 800, I think, but because some of them were kind of cool when I played them. So, and I don't know if this idea was completely original. I thought it was original at the time. A retro game reissue machine, right? You could just have the machine make copies of any game that you want for it, and you could have like a demo booth where you could demo play for a very short period of time, a bunch of different games, and then pick out which ones you want a copy of, and then this machine makes a copy for you on any disk system you want. Like if you want an old computer game of Atari 800 on your 3DS, it could do it and legally and all that. But I don't know if you could get everybody's permission, but if they get royalties, they might not mind, right? Because I was thinking to support the game companies, so people will have an alternative to emulation, which doesn't support the game companies, because I like them to have money to continue making games, right? So that's what I was thinking. But they already have a machine like that in Japan or something. I heard they have it where you could put any game you want on a multi-cart, and they have machines for it. And I was just saying they should bring that to the USA. Because I didn't even know that at the time when I thought of that idea, that they already have it. But also they could have it in video game stores, I was thinking, right? That's what I just said. Video game stores, because if they don't want to have those machines like everywhere, they don't think they'd be popular to have them everywhere, maybe just video game stores can buy the machines, the multi-cart making machines where you could put any game you want on a multi-cart. That way you could get the rare games that aren't available in the USA or that aren't available at all anymore. They're really hard to find, that type of thing. And plus you could still have that like it's on a cart type experience instead of all digital online in a cloud or whatever, which I don't really like. Because I feel like if your computer loses the information, or if you don't have a physical copy to remind you to play it, you might not play it. I don't know, I just don't like it. I like a physical copy, I don't like where it's online, a digital copy, you might lose it, or it might get, the web service might go away, or, I just don't like that, instability. I like the physical copy. But anyway, idea, all-in-one, easier vid game maker with music, something creating, music adding, creating, and something own characters and buttons, easier coding, something language like add, movement, etc. Saying clearly what does for what. Drawing on characters. Okay, like this, I was just thinking it'd be nice if there was an easier way to make video games. A coding system or whatever that's just easier. You don't have to type in all these codes where it's just, they make it where you can just make it easily. So makers of video games can make them more easily. Where, I don't know, just a system where it's just easier to make them instead of all this complicated coding and everything. Although I guess that you could get the hang of that too, and maybe it's easy after a while. I don't really know. I mean, my brother was explaining it to me, and I was getting kind of like, okay, this is kind of complicated, because at first I felt like making some video games or something, or learning about it, but then it got kind of confusing, and then I got discouraged. But okay, ideas. People hired to date and review the date, so to warn or recommend, so people know what to expect. For personality dating club, like if there's a personality dating, or like a personals dating club. I mean, ideas. Career classes not costing at university, and only non-related to career classes costing, so to not hinder poor people from careers, and or only careers classes really important for safety. You know, like how some degrees, they make you get degrees for like everything, even things that you don't really need it for. I mean, like, do you really need a whole degree to study this huge book just to do nails? I mean, is that really important for like safety or something? I mean, some things are just not as important as getting like a degree for like flying a plane would be, maybe, or being a doctor. Yes, that would be very important to get a very in-depth study, a whole book on, so you can do it. That would be important for safety. That's what I'm saying here. And also it'd be cool if school was kind of like a non-profit to some degree, not completely, but if it was set up that way so poor people could go. I know there's scholarships and all this based on if you're really good at, you get great grades or something, but what about people that want to still do a career that aren't mathematician A in math or whatever people, and they want to do a career that's not even related to math anyway, or history or whatever they're flunking in, and they want to do a career that's not related to that, and just because they got bad grades in like one class that's not even related to the career they want to do, then it hinders them. I mean, I don't think the system's set up right now if it's set up like that, because it could be like, instead it could be set up where people could take classes related to a career they definitely want to do. They could take those for free. And if it's the just for fun classes, then they could take those. Those ones could cost money, right? Like if they're not related to a career that they want to do. Because then, and also people should go to school like all throughout their lives, like to get new hobbies and interests. I think that would be fun, because there's like too much. Like, people are pressured to do too much when they're younger, and then they're not having anything to do when they're older. And it's kind of like imbalanced. They shouldn't be pressured so much to do too many things when they're younger, because then they're not going to wind up being like, it's good to try a lot of things to see what you're going to like and be good at in a way, but in a way it's like almost makes people not even want to try to be good at anything, because they are overwhelmed. They might get discouraged to do anything or to like anything. Like, it just might backfire. But like, maybe optionally you could try a lot of things, but if you don't want to, you could just do the things you're interested in, maybe. You know, like right now, isn't it like a rule that you have to do all these courses that you're not even interested in, that aren't even related to a career you want to do or something? And it just seems like you should just do the ones that relate to the career you want to do. I mean, I don't know. And maybe people should get careers earlier so they have a career by the time they want to get married when they're a teenager. Sometimes people want to get married and date when they're teenagers, so they should have their career already planned and set up before they're a teenager. And yet people figure out a career after they're a teenager, thus missing out on who they could have married when they were a teenager, and getting married too late and all this. And then they wind up marrying somebody that they might not even liked as much, because sometimes the people you like in high school might have been better than the people you liked in college or after. I mean, because people are friendlier during those years than they were later sometimes. So anyway, idea: start church with Sabbath center, library, and lounge open all Sunday areas, and Christian music, etc., and movies, and something, and Christian board game areas. And it could be like open on Sundays. Or if it's not in church, it could just be a separate place from church too. It could just be called like a Christian center that's open on Sundays. Actually, it can be open every day, but it could be like kind of like a library, except it only has Christian things. And then they could have them at churches, but maybe they already have them at churches, like libraries for with all the different Christian stuff. But it could be kind of like a Sabbath center, and it could be its own separate business too. And it could have just all this Christian stuff in it to encourage people to keep the Sabbath. You know, board games and music and movies and books. Okay, multivitamin with herbs only that says only take one occasionally, not daily, but weekly or every other week, because herbs are maybe needed, but not as often as other vitamins. So shouldn't, for safety, be combined with ones taken daily. Like, I was just thinking if they had or some sort of a herbal extract that has a bunch of different ones in one thing, or maybe not in one thing, but like where you can take a different one each day and it has just a small amount of each one, because like a multi-pack, because now like each herb extract is like so much money just for one, but they should have like a whole case of them, a little tiny amount of each one, and you could take them through the month, a little of each one. And they have different variety packs, and you could just have them like once, very rarely, just for a health supplement. You know, not on a regular basis if it's not good to have them too often, but just like once in a great while, just as a supplement, you would try one every few days or every week or whatever. Should be stores for all retro stuff, not in any other stores, like old gaming computers or vintage toys. I know they already have thrift stores, which is kind of like this, but I think there should be like vintage stores too, like just that people could also donate to, like any. Like, you know how antique stores have old stuff, but they never have stuff like 70s or 60s stuff as much, or 80s stuff as much. So there could be like a new type of antique store for 60s, 70s, and 80s stuff, is what I was thinking. Even though like thrift stores kind of are that, but still, I think it would be cool, like all the old lunch boxes and old just collectibles, like well, I guess they already have collectible stores, but I don't know, just vintage collectible stores, I just thought. But they probably already have those, but I mean, my town doesn't have hardly anything, that's why I'm all oblivious that they probably already have this stuff somewhere else. Okay. I live in the middle of nowhere. Yes, I live under a rock. Oh well. That's why I might not be as aware they have cool stores somewhere, but okay. Idea. Better care Baron Ewoks and retro certain video games if not done yet, especially. Like, you know how, well, I got into video games because they seem very nostalgic. They reminded me of, I didn't even hear about any of these games when I was a kid, but I discovered them kind of belatedly, all these different, and they have all these games of like 80s cartoons I used to watch as a kid and stuff, so I thought, they practically made a game for every 80s cartoon I liked as a kid, practically. Or every popular old cartoon, vintage cartoon, they probably made a game for. But then I thought of a couple that they didn't make. They didn't make a very good Ewoks, because the Atari ones weren't very good, and then they made a Game Boy Care Bear, but I don't know if it was very good. They made a Strawberry Shortcake like PlayStation, and they made a lot of good games that are kind of retro vintagey cartoons in them, but a couple of them they might have forgotten, right? And they tried to make a Rainbow Bright one, but it was like on a plug and play or something. It wasn't very good or something. But I mean, I'm just saying, they might have missed a couple, like Fraggle Rock or something, you know, like a couple that would be really cool as a video game. Or like maybe the Neverending Story, you could have that flying character guy in it, that flying animal, and you could be on that character in the video game and fly around on it, and you could have that cool music in it, and like 80s music, and like the MIDI music style, the old-fashioned style, or whatever, and but combined with the cool new PlayStation type graphics, that, Nintendo or whatever didn't have in the 80s, or whatever systems were popular in the 80s didn't have. Or Atari didn't have when they made Ewoks or whatever, But anyway, okay, what else? Loan ideas. Loans for if poor and or if certain low-income persons there at least should have no interest loans. Maybe only wealthier income can be charged interest if they do loans. Yeah, they should have loans that have no interest for poor people. Like if you have a certain low income, by law they shouldn't be charging you interest on credit cards, or so you can catch up, because otherwise you're never going to catch up and you won't be able to pay it back if you keep getting this high interest for just the small amount that you're the small amount that you're getting loans for or whatever. Okay. Ideas. Married priests only to preach to regular congregations, and if with families and singles. And the can't marry ones only allowed to preach to fellow priests and nuns. So not to be around any temptation. So we're on similar lifestyles, so they won't, because I heard of all these, because otherwise they want to, sometimes, okay, I don't even want to think about it, there's there's pedophile priests and different things. I mean, they shouldn't be around anybody but fellow nuns and priests, they shouldn't be around other people, maybe, if they're living the celibate lifestyle, and even then it's not always, doesn't always work, but I mean, priests should be only preaching to fellow priests, and nuns should only be, well, I guess you have to have priests to preach to the nuns even too, but oh well. I don't know. Oh well. But at least if this similar lifestyle was together, it might work a little bit better. Priests, nuns, if can't marry, then they shouldn't be preaching at churches with single and married, but only at churches of priests for priests, or nuns to nuns, so they don't have to see what they can't have. Okay, that was another variation on that idea. Okay, what else? Okay. Still filming good. Sometimes it just conks out after a while. Ideas. Take with diners out of if plastic. What does it say? Take with dinners out of. Oh yeah, this is an idea. Like if you're eating microwave dinners and they're in a plastic container, take them out of the plastic container and just put them on a plate. It's a little bit safer, because otherwise I fear like the plastic might melt on the food or something. I don't know if it does, but that's just an idea I thought is worth mentioning, just a kind of a health tip type of thing, just in case. Because it still cooks without just on a plate, the food. And another good idea is to cook things in the toaster oven or the on the stove when you can, cooking on the stove, so you don't have to use the microwave, just in case it does have radiation. I'm not sure if it does, it's debatable, but just in case. And plus it might take vitamins out. I mean, I know you can't always, because sometimes it might take too long, or it might, I don't know, but a lot of times it does cook better in the other, but anyway, in the regular oven, but on the stove. So sometimes you could do that. Ideas for job resumes to best, but job applications to be first. What does that say? For job resumes to be first, but job applications after employment and interview, so not redundant. Okay, what does that mean? For job resumes,